Hello and welcome back to the LFC transfer room. Today I'm joined with the Athletics' Gregg Evans to discuss the upcoming Liverpool vs Aston Villa fixture. How are you today, Greg?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm looking forward to the game. It should be a good one, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think every Liverpool fan will have their eyes on this, especially with the return of a certain somebody. Sure, we'll get onto him in a minute. But just a quick question we usually ask everyone to start it off if people haven't been watching the Aston Villa or certain teams. How can you sum up Aston Villa's season so far? Obviously, we're nearly halfway through the season. Has it been all ups, all downs, or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, a bit of mixed emotions, really. I think this season was all about progression. It was all about Villa finishing higher than 11th place, the position that they finished last season in. And it wasn't going to plan, was it, at the start of the season? Where they had a couple of good wins in the first 4 or 5 games. But then under Dean Smith, they lost 5 on the bounce, and there were genuine concerns that Villa were going to get sucked into a relegation battle. So the fact that they had to change a manager so soon after just 11 games of the season shows that there were clear problems and that the board felt that they needed to act. Ever since Steven Gerrard has come in as Dean Smith's replacement, it's been much better though. 3 wins out of 4 has dragged them away from relegation bother, really. I mean, I think with 4 or 5 games of the year remaining, if Villa can win 1 or 2 of those, they are pretty much safe from getting sucked into that battle, I'd feel. So given that they were so close before Gerrard come in, it's just a measure of how well he's done so far. So yeah, to answer your question, a bit of mixed emotions, but feels like Villa are on the up again now.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, before this summer, you had one main man, Jack Grealish. He was your talisman for years and years. And with him, obviously gaining that £100 million move to Manchester City, who's really stepped up? I know Emi Buendia was brought in to try and emulate his impact on the squad. But again, you brought in a lot of players like Bailey. El Ghazi obviously was already there, but he's stepped up a bit. Who would you say has sort of come into that Jack Grealish role and has been trying to, score the goals and get all the assists?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, none of them have particularly stood out yet. I mean, Emi Buendia was a player that was targeted to come in and play alongside Jack Grealish before Villa knew what was happening with his future. The fact that Grealish eventually went meant that Buendia became part of the jigsaw to replace him. Leon Bailey and Danny Ings were the 2 other players who were signed almost to help fill the void. And Villa felt that between the 3 of them, they would help produce what Grealish has done for years and years and years at the club. So far, the 3 of them, it hasn't really worked for them. Buendia, we've seen some positive signs in the last couple of games, but he's still just got 1 goal and 2 assists to his name. And those are the areas where he's going to be judged heavily. Bailey, he's been in and out of the team with injury, and Danny Ings started quite well, but again has been out with injury. So there's no real player that's stepped up in those attacking areas. Ollie Watkins has performed quite well since Gerrard has come in, but again, it took him quite a while to get started. Bertrand Traore, a player who Villa turned to so regularly last season, has been out injured for a long time. And Anwar El Ghazi hasn't featured too much. So it's a case of, as a collective, the team have managed to get quite a few decent results, but there's been no real standout performer yet.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have a repeat of that 7-2 with Ollie Watkins deciding to become the best striker in the world. Hopefully that's not what Gerrard's planning on. I mean, speaking of Gerrard, how has he really changed this Villa side since taking over from Dean Smith? Has he, what has he improved on what Dean Smith was failing to do?
I think what he's made Villa is hard to beat, first and foremost. I know it sounds a little bit boring when a new manager comes in and they say, we need to improve defensively, but that really was the problem at Villa. They were conceding way too many goals, often having to score 2 or 3 goals in a game just to get a point or 3 out of the game, and it just wasn't sustainable, was it? So Gerrard came in, recognised that the attacking players were doing quite well. They just needed a bit of help defensively. He's brought Marvelous Nakamba back into the team, and Nakamba's been performing exceptionally well in the last few weeks. Ashley Young, incredibly, at 36 years old, has come in as well and has done really well under Gerrard. Just feel might have been a little bit unfair on Dean Smith maybe to move him on so soon in the season, but the decision to bring Gerrard in clearly has proved that it was the right one, because maybe the players just needed a bit of a new voice around the place, somebody to change up the training regime and just come in with fresh new ideas. Perhaps any manager on Villa's list might have come in and had this impact, but I think we've got to give Gerrard credit, because he's handled himself impeccably since he's come in. Every single press conference I've been in, he's been asked about Liverpool and whether it's a stepping stone to become the manager in the future, and how important this game is on Saturday. And he's just knocked back all those questions and really focused on Aston Villa. And I think if you're a Villa supporter, that's what you want to hear, because you don't want the focus to be around Liverpool. Yes, it's going to be this weekend because it's a big game, but Gerrard's here to be a Villa manager, not looking ahead to be a Liverpool manager.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw that question, what was asked about if there was any sentimental feelings towards it. And he said, no, he's there to win with Villa. And I can say, as a Liverpool fan, and I know people around me, that's what we want to see. Because at the end of the day, he is a Villa manager. Yes, he'll always be a legend at Liverpool, but the fact he's focusing on a club that's, as a Liverpool fan, that's what I want to see anyway. But, as a fan base, how would obviously Gerrard's been considered a god everywhere he's been. He's probably top 3 Liverpool legends. Even though Rangers fans might not want to admit it, he's probably going to go down as a legendary manager in their book. What has he brought to Aston Villa? What are the fans? They rarely have seemed to have bought into his philosophy already at the club.
Yeah, I think they like his straight talking and his passion, and he's just his desire to be as good as as good as they can be still. I mean, we all know what he was like as a player. He set exceptionally high standards, and it's very rare you see a manager who's not like he was as a player, if that makes sense. So he's just carried on basically what he was like as a player, but drilling those ways into his players. Villa fans were not overly excited about him coming in. I'll be honest, it was a case of they probably wanted a manager with a little bit more experience and know-how in the Premier League, and probably somewhere who'd been there and done it and maybe won a trophy or two in England, if that was at all possible. So when Gerrard came in, he was always up against it immediately, but the fans have quickly turned to him. They're singing his name after every game now. I think what they like, as I mentioned at the start, excuse me, is just the way that he answers questions quite honestly, and doesn't beat around the bush and just says, "Look, we've done well today, but there's so much more we can do." And I think that's what Villa want to see. They want to see somebody who's ambitious and desperate to take the club even further forward.
Yeah, and obviously just a little final bit on Gerrard. What are his expectations with Villa this season? Obviously, when he took over from Dean Smith, he was not in a relegation battle, but he was, fighting at the bottom of the pack. Is he obviously coming in to try and get, top 8, top 10, or is this season really just a bit of a tester for him to see what he can achieve?
I think from speaking to those who know him very well, he's never been interested in taking a managerial job where the club is just simply happy to survive. He's always wanted to be a part of a club who are pushing for things. So it was a risky move for him to go to Rangers when they were in a little bit of trouble, and that's just a measure of him, of how focused he is to improve the club that he's at. And it's the same at Villa, that they've got very, very ambitious owners. The minimum requirement this season is to finish better than 11th place, which was last season's finish. And they have got the eye on 6th, 7th or 8th place, with possible chance of getting into Europe. I think in terms of their journey, this is just the 3rd season back for Villa in the Premier League. So to be aiming for European football now is premature, maybe a season too early, perhaps. If Gerrard can get that, I mean, it'll be an incredible start, and then the expectations will really increase next year, because they just want constant improvement every single year. These owners, that they've invested huge amounts of money, and eventually they want to see Villa right at the very top.
Yeah, and obviously since he has come in, he's had 3 very good results against Brighton, Leicester, and
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that was it. How is he going to beat Liverpool? Obviously, Liverpool are probably the best form they have been, especially goal scoring wise. How is he going to approach this game? Obviously, he wants to win 100% with Villa, but it's going to be a tough task, even for any manager in world football at the moment.
Yeah, look, incredible team, Liverpool at the moment. A real joy to watch. I think the way that Villa set up against Man City perhaps gave us an insight into what he might do at Anfield. They tried to keep possession by playing it out from the back. Now, that, as we all know, is a long process. It's something that doesn't develop overnight. You have to keep working on it and working on it and working on it. Gerrard's had 3 or 4 weeks now with his Villa players. Nowhere near enough time for something like that to come off. Whether he tries to do that at Liverpool and sees and feels that keeping possession is, as best as they can, is the best way to stop Liverpool. I think if you look at all good managers and all good teams in the Premier League, the real key is nullifying the opponents first and foremost. It's keeping them out. That's what he will have to do. I mean, if you can get a point, it'd be still an unbelievable point. But I'd love to come out here and say that I think Villa have got a chance, but I just think watching Liverpool, they're so good, and I can see the areas potentially where they can exploit Villa, and I just think it's going to be one too many for Gerrard on this occasion, unfortunately.
Yeah, speaking of them areas of weakness, what are Liverpool really going to look to target against Aston Villa?
I think the fact that the defence has tightened up is a plus point for Villa, but they have conceded quite a lot of goals this year, and the way Liverpool are scoring goals, I think that they'll be able to pounce on them at the back at times. We all know how Liverpool play. They like to hassle and press, counter press, normal press, whatever you want to call it. They don't give opponents any time on the ball. So I think that's what they'll be looking to do. What Villa have tried to do under Gerrard is break through central areas. They're passing the ball between 5 and 15 yards a lot more often than they were under the previous regime. So they're working on specific patterns of play. I think what Liverpool will look to do is just upset them and just really get into them, and then their quality will probably shine through anyway, because those forward players can do it against any team in the world.
Yeah, and finally, we'll just finish it off like we do with every interview. What are your score predictions going into the game?
Villa fans won't like me, but I think 2-0 to Liverpool.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you so much for joining us, Gregg. Obviously from The Athletic, go check out all of his articles on the site. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, and see you later.